Welcome to Vedic Astrology classes, session 25. You are familiar with what is a horoscope and how we can read a horoscope in North Indian format and how in South Indian format. The 12 Rashis and their ruling planets. In this session, you will learn about the lords of 12 houses in a birth chart. It is quite simple to identify the lords of different houses in a birth chart. The lord of a house in a birth chart is the planet which governs the sign or Rashi placed in that particular house. For example, if the third house, Tritiya Bhav of a birth chart is occupied by the sign Libra, that is Tula Rashi, sign number 7, then the lord of the third house will be Venus. In North Indian format of birth chart, the lords of the 12 houses are decided by the date, time and place of birth of the person. Because in North Indian format of birth chart, the placement of 12 signs in different houses of the birth chart depends on the date, time and place of birth of the person. You are also familiar with the South Indian format of birth chart, and you know in South Indian birth chart the lords of the 12 houses are fixed because in a South Indian birth chart the positions assigned to 12 signs, that is to 12 rashis, are fixed. Here you can see the basic format of South Indian birth chart, and you know the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12 mentioned in different houses represent the 12 signs. The house, the highlighted one, is always occupied by the first sign, Aries. The starting point of this house is taken as 0 degree. Since Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, therefore, in a South Indian birth chart, this house is always ruled by the planet Mars. Or you can say, the lord of this house is Mars. Proceeding in this manner, you can identify the lords of all the 12 houses in a South Indian birth chart. Here you can see a South Indian birth chart showing the lords of 12 houses. The house occupied by Aries is ruled by Mars. The next house, which is occupied by Taurus, is ruled by planet Venus. The house occupied by sign Gemini is ruled by planet Mercury. Next, the house occupied by the sign Cancer is always ruled by the planet Moon. The house occupied by the sign Leo is always ruled by the planet Sun. The house occupied by Virgo is ruled by Mercury. The next house, which is occupied by Libra, is always governed by Venus. This house is ruled by the planet Mars as sign number 8. Scorpio is placed in this house. The lord of the next house is Jupiter, as this house is always occupied by the sign Sagittarius. The lord of this house is Saturn, as this house is always occupied by sign Capricorn. Proceeding in this way, the next house is ruled by Saturn and this house is ruled by Jupiter. You must remember, in North Indian as well as in South Indian format, the lords of the first house, that is Pratham Bhav, second house, Dvitiya Bhav, etc. depend on the date, time and place of birth of the person. Let's discuss the lords of different houses in the horoscope of a person in North Indian as well as South Indian format. Date of birth is January 28, 1935. Time of birth is 17 hours 11 minutes 1 second and place of birth is Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh, India. Here you can see the birth chart of the person both in North Indian as well as South Indian format. Lagna or ascendant is Cancer. Therefore, the first house or Pratham Bhav is occupied by the sign Cancer. So, first house is ruled by the planet Moon. You can say Lord of the Lagna Bhav is Moon. In this horoscope, Lord of the second house is Sun, because second house is occupied by the sign Leo. Sign number 5. Lord of the third house is Mercury. Lord of the fourth house, Chaturth Bhav, is Venus. Lord of the fifth house is Mars. Sixth house is ruled by Jupiter. Lord of seventh house is Saturn. Lord of eighth house is also Saturn. Lord of ninth house, Navam Bhav, is Jupiter. Lord of 10th house, Dasham Bhav, is Mars. Lord of 11th house, Ekadash Bhav, is Venus. Because you can see sign number 2 is placed in this house. That is, this house is occupied by Taurus. Lord of 12th house is Mercury. To learn more about Vedic astrology, please watch Vedic astrology classes session 26.